Hey everybody, Paul and Logan here at Dream Guitars, about to have some fun. We just decided to do a different kind of video today. He grabbed one of his guitars and I grabbed one of mine, and we're just going to tell you what we like about these two particular guitars. Not too hard to do because they're pretty cool. Logan, what do you got in your hands?
Right, so I have in my hands my personal guitar, my guitar of choice, my dream guitar of dream guitars. This is a 2012 Greenfield G4.2 of the Dadgad multi-scale Persuasion. African Blackwood back and sides, Adirondack spruce on top. It's the G4 body, which is his big old jumbo. Similar to what Andy McKee plays, for instance. Similar scale lengths as well. The guitar also has an arm bevel, which of course I'm a fan of, as you know. It also has the rib bevel, which is my personal favorite, because I like to play where, like, more back to the sides if I'm doing foot percussion. So that means I can have the guitar back here without it gouging me out, as it were. Gold Evo frets, which after I've had this guitar for a little over a year, give or take, and the frets are still looking good. They are starting to get worn, I can confess that much. But considering how many hours I put into this thing, it's doing great. Additionally, with the multi-scale rig, I get to play in C. I've even tuned this thing down to B with heavier strings, and it's still there. It's still loud and proud and strong. So cool. It's been a daily inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bevels, of course, making a big body a bit more comfortable to hold.
Right. Much more comfortable. Also, since I got a long torso, long arms, the bigger box is more comfortable for me because I can't hunch over the guitar. It forces me to be upright. So cool. Another reason I enjoy the G4 body.
Awesome.
How about yours?
This is a Michi Matsuda M1 guitar. Both of these, by the way, are guitars that came into the shop and we just fell in love and had to have them. So we're lucky enough to be in this position. So that was the case with this. I actually was sitting here doing the demo for this guitar, and I was just like, it was literally just melting my heart. And I was like, I have to have this, for my own collection. Some of you may know this already, but I'm a songwriter, so that's the reason I play guitar. So for me, every guitar has to have songs in it. It has to feel like it's going to pull songs out of me. So that's what happened to me when I played this guitar. So it's his M1 guitar. It's number 30, if I remember correctly. Really cool. Spruce top. I think it's Adirondack. I can't remember.
It's Adirondack, yeah.
I just love guitars. I don't geek out over the specs so much myself.
I do.
It's got his really cool recessed sort of palm away thing there. Of course, the amazing rosette, which I love. His bridge, which is really multi-dimensional and just cool. Michi, as some of you probably know, came out of the Samaji school, and he's just an amazing craftsman. One of the things I like about this guitar is it's one of my few short scale guitars, so I play a lot of fan fret like Logan, and I play a lot of low tunings. But one of the things I thought about adding this to my collection for was the fact that it's 25 inches, short scale, and I keep it mainly in drop D and standard. So that gives me a guitar for that world, which I do a lot of. I do a lot of playing in drop D and standard. Most of my other guitars can go to low Cs. Slotted headstock on this one. I switched up the tuners to some Rogers, and then really cool shape he did on the neck heel there, and a really cool sort of design of the neck heel.
It's Wingate, yeah.
And then just really good Brazilian rosewood. So talking just sonically for a moment, what do you like about that guitar?
It is huge. It's voluminous. It's got a ton of bottom end. Of course, it's a big old guitar. What do you expect? But the bottom end is very clear and crisp, especially when I go down to C. It's in Dadgad at the moment, which of course it loves. But if I go down to C, it's still crisp and clear. And I love that depth and that clarity. Like when you get both at the same time, like this, there's no mud to be found with this creature. So tonally, that's what I'm drawn to the most about this guitar.
Cool.
The depth, which is not just the bottom end, to be clear. The mid-range and the trebles have that really smooth, kind of glassy quality to it.
Yeah. And I talk a lot when I talk about Greenfield guitars, Tipping guitars, Meccano guitars, Matsuda guitars. Like these, you'll hear me say that the trebles have some weight, or they're fat and juicy. I use adjectives like that because it's the best way to get across what these things can do. As opposed to bright and sparkly is all great too, and many people love that. But for Logan and I, we just tend to gravitate. I'll speak for you towards treble strings that just have a lot of meat to them, because you play so much melody up there.
Yeah, the term that comes to mind for me is heft.
Oh, there you
Like the trebles have heft, they have presence.
Yeah.
They got some juice.
Yeah.
You know.
And sometimes if somebody doesn't quite get what I'm saying, I'll say, well, it's more like a clarinet than a trumpet. So you can kind of picture that, or at least verbally picture that. Anyway, talking about guitar tone is a really interesting thing. We're very good at it, but it still is a mystifying thing. How do we capture the essence of what? That's sort of what I wanted to do in this video. Is just like, why do we like these guitars? You know, that's really the question. So for me, another thing about the sound of this guitar is, yes, it has that. I think the trebles are very full and fat, and I'll kind of show you what I mean. Just and hear all that reverb. That's what he's hearing. So there's a lot of the guitars have that built-in sort of reverb, and it just comes from, especially I'll hear it a lot up here. And just that sustain and lingering and blossoming, all of that is what this guitar did for me. I think I was playing a demo in D, if I remember. And sort of this full presence of the guitar. It has a sweetness to it. I think one thing about short scale is it tends to be a sweeter sound. It's maybe not as powerful and punchy as longer scale, for obvious reasons. You're shortening the string and lessening the tension, but you can get this fatter, juicier, really sweet sound, and that's what I like. What I tend to write on this guitar, I do a lot of songwriting on this guitar, and it tends to be things that are more maybe more beautiful, more sweet, more somber sometimes. So that's kind of what I get with the songs that I'm finding in this particular one.
Yeah, and there's still like when you were hitting that chord a moment ago, the bottom end still has a, if not a crispness, perhaps a precision to it and a clarity.
Yeah, the attack. Nice. You're right.
Yeah, the attack.
And the swell. I'm going to do that again. And just listen to like the first couple nanoseconds. There's this like ramping up. It's almost louder 1 second later. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it fills the room gradually, not like instantaneously. Yeah.
Cool. Now let's just talk feel for a minute. So
Yeah,
that's
sure.
another thing, of course. We all gravitate towards guitars that feel good in our hands. What felt right about that guitar when you played?
Right. So as I mentioned earlier, long arms, long torso, and this being
Long hair.
Yeah, long nails. Although at the moment kind of short. I've been a little brutal on them. This, I believe it's 17 inches across the lower bout, full tilt jumbo. It forces my arm to go out, which for me feels very comfortable. So for me personally, this instrument is very easy to play, and it keeps my body locked in without hunching over. My shoulders don't get nearly as torqued as otherwise they would be. Additionally, Mike's neck profile is very smoothly contoured, and it fits my hands, which are again long fingers, long hands. It fits very comfortably on this creature. It's 1 3/4 of the nut, which I can feel cramped on other guitars, but like this particular instrument feels super smooth.
Right.
I also have dialed in the setup to be as slinky smooth as I wish. So there's that too. Yeah, and the bevels, of course, they also help playability for me. And the central sound hole means I can scoop and like get a nice like sound without like running into the top like with a thumb pick.
Sure.
So
cool.
Yeah.
And for me, again, I've already talked about it, but the tension, the really sweet tension on this guitar because it's short scale. I play it with light strings, so this is sort of my easy to play baby. All my guitars play easy, but this one's especially like just a joy to hold and play. The neck shape on this one again is nice. Just a quick side note of neck shapes. A lot of people like skinny, but I like a fuller neck. Not that this one necessarily is, but I like a neck that, because it adds sustain and some of that blossom and things. And sometimes on guitars with really thin necks, I feel like the sound can suffer potentially as far as sustain and blossom and all of that. And then again, that's comfortable OM size, real easy for me to hold. Mm-hmm. And this one was also just attractive to me like that. I don't underestimate the look of a guitar. I think all of us players need a guitar we want to grab. So the more beautiful they are, it's not just for the sake of beauty, but it's for the sake of inspiration again. And I have to pick that thing up and play it today because it's just looking at me and making me, it's tempting me. So that's what I like about this one. And the slotted headstock too, there's something different about the feel. This one has a really cool feel when I'm playing the guitar. Very different than my fan fret long scale stuff. So
Yeah.
cool. Why don't we play a little bit? You want to play something on yours and I'll play something on mine?
Sure. One last note about the necks, though. I will say, the girthier neck for me feels more comfortable because there's like more hand contact. So like the skinny necks, for me, I'm like my fingers are all twisty over it. It doesn't feel very great. So point number 2 in favor of chunkier necks.
Yeah, and just as long as we're on necks because we seem to be going there. I tell players, I'm teaching a friend of mine right now how to play for the first time, and I always tell him, you play as if you have an orange in your hand. Like you want your hand to be rounded the whole time. And on skinny necks, I see people do this kind of stuff, and that's obviously you can just see that's not going to be efficient, smooth, or fast. So relaxed with so a girthier neck tends to promote that, I feel like.
Yeah, an exception would be if you're really into thumb overs, of course, maybe a squat.
Oh yeah, no,
neck
you'll see me
works.
do that all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
I played blues and rock my whole life, but my home position is this, the nice sort of relaxed position.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, yeah.
All right, let's take a break and we'll play a little something for y'all.
Cheers.
Sweet. I can see why you like it.
Me too.
You know what it sounds like out here, what I'm getting is all the things you said. There's a lot of clarity. There's really good shimmer and brilliance on the attacks, but then there's just underlying, just boom, just depth and beauty.
Heft.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word that keeps coming back for me.
Heft is the word of the day, y'all.
Yeah. Oh no, let it keep going. Yeah. So like, there's a fun contrast between these two instruments.
Sure.
This has that heft, whereas this is like that super glassy, smooth, but also still crisp and like defined, especially on the bottom end. Yeah, I'm really I'm surprised by how much that guitar shoots out and away from it immediately. You know.
Yeah.
While still having that smooth blossoming quality that you mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a nice contrast of body size. This is a small guitar,
Yeah.
short scale. It's much less power than that, but you can see each of them has really great inspiration and music inside them. So it's kind of really fun to do this. I appreciate it, Logan.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Cheers.
And thank you, Michael Greenfield and Michi Matsuda. Appreciate you guys. Keep doing it.
Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.